I'm working hard on it. I flew here to California yesterday. Before I got on the plane, vocal therapy. If I can get that in first, nothing else matters until I work on getting better.
April 2nd, 2013. Hours before a sold-out show in Calgary, Canada, Bon Jovi faced their worst nightmare. Richie Sambora, the band's legendary guitarist and Jon's right-hand man for over 3 decades, simply didn't show up. No call, no text, no explanation. For over a decade, fans have speculated about what really happened that night and why one of rock's most iconic partnerships came to such an abrupt end. Now, in the explosive 2024 Hulu documentary, Thank You, Goodnight, The Bon Jovi Story, Jon Bon Jovi is finally breaking his silence with revelations that will shock longtime fans. What he reveals about Richie's departure goes far beyond creative differences. It's a story of addiction, betrayal, and the devastating moment when a brotherhood built on music was shattered forever. The day the music almost died. To understand the magnitude of what happened on April 2nd, 2013, you need to grasp what Richie Sambora meant to Bon Jovi. For over 30 years, he had been more than just the lead guitarist. He was Jon's creative partner, his closest friend, and the musical architect behind many of their biggest hits. But on that fateful night in Calgary, everything changed. Jon faced an impossible choice: cancel the show and disappoint tens of thousands of fans, or find a way to continue without the man who had been by his side through it all. The decision to go on without Richie wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal and painful. In the documentary, Jon reveals the immediate chaos that ensued. The band had to completely restructure their setlist, rearrange harmonies, and somehow deliver a show that fans had paid good money to see. Phil X, who had previously filled in for Richie during his 2011 rehab stint, was called in to save the day. The most devastating aspect wasn't just the professional disruption, it was the complete breakdown of communication. Jon describes the eerie silence that followed Richie's no-show, the unanswered calls, and the growing realization that this wasn't just a temporary absence. The man who had been his musical soulmate had simply vanished without explanation. This wasn't the first time Richie had been unreliable, but it was the final straw that broke a partnership that had survived everything from creative differences to personal struggles. The elephant in the room, Richie's struggles. In the documentary, Jon finally addresses what he calls the elephant in the room, Richie Sambora's long battle with addiction. For years, Jon had remained diplomatically silent about the real reasons behind Richie's erratic behavior. But now he's revealing the painful truth. Jon's most revealing statement comes when he says, "The elephant in the room is, of course, Richie's struggles. Everybody wants to know the whys and the wherefores. There's no simple answer." This admission represents the first time Jon has directly acknowledged that addiction played a central role in Richie's departure. The struggles weren't new, they had been building for years. Jon reveals that Richie's reliability had become increasingly questionable, with missed rehearsals, late arrivals, and erratic behavior becoming more frequent. The 2011 incident that led to Phil X temporarily replacing Richie was a warning sign that Jon now admits they should have taken more seriously. Jon's pain is evident when he discusses the helplessness of watching someone he cares about destroy themselves. He states, "I will never speak for Richie, but his actions have made him unapologetic." This carefully worded statement reveals the frustration and hurt that Jon felt as he watched his friend's addiction take precedence over their shared musical legacy. The most heartbreaking aspect is Jon's admission that the band tried to help Richie multiple times. They arranged for treatment, adjusted tour schedules, and made countless accommodations, but ultimately couldn't save someone who wasn't ready to save himself. The business behind the brotherhood. One of Jon's most shocking revelations concerns the business realities that complicated their personal relationship. While fans saw Bon Jovi as a band of equals, Jon reveals that the financial and legal structures were far more complex. Jon makes a crucial distinction when he states, "I'm not in a rock band anymore. I don't say that with any sadness. I'm in a rock and roll brand." This statement reveals how the band had evolved from a group of friends making music into a massive business enterprise with corporate responsibilities. The transformation into a brand created pressures that went far beyond making music. Jon reveals that by 2013, Bon Jovi was generating over $125 million annually from touring alone, with Forbes ranking them as one of the top-earning touring acts. This level of success brought corporate expectations that couldn't be derailed by one member's personal struggles. Jon's revelation that it was not a matter of money when discussing Richie's departure is particularly telling. By explicitly stating what it wasn't about, he implies that financial considerations did play a role in the decision-making process. The business pressures extended beyond just financial considerations to include the livelihoods of dozens of crew members, the expectations of promoters, and the commitments to fans. Jon reveals that these responsibilities weighed heavily on his decision to continue without Richie. The final straw and broken promises. Jon's most damning revelations concern the pattern of broken promises and unreliable behavior that led to the final break. The Calgary incident wasn't an isolated event. It was the culmination of years of disappointments that had eroded the trust between the two men. In the documentary, Jon reveals his growing frustration with Richie's excuses. He states, "There was no fight. There was nothing. He just didn't show up, and we couldn't get a hold of him." This simple statement carries enormous weight, revealing the complete breakdown of communication between former best friends. Jon's most pointed criticism comes when he addresses Richie's later claims about needing to be home for his daughter. While acknowledging the importance of family, Jon implies that this explanation doesn't account for the years of erratic behavior. His statement that he just didn't show up for work anymore cuts through diplomatic language to reveal his true feelings. The broken promises extended beyond just showing up for performances. Jon reveals that there were multiple attempts to address Richie's issues, with agreements that were repeatedly broken. Could the partnership have been saved if Richie had honored his commitments and sought help earlier? The question haunts Jon, who clearly feels that he gave his friend every possible chance. The most painful aspect is Jon's admission that the door was always open for him to come back, but he chose not to. This reveals that even after Calgary, Jon was willing to forgive if Richie had addressed his problems. The aftermath and moving forward. Host. Jon's final revelations focus on the aftermath and the difficult process of moving forward without his longtime partner. The decision to continue as Bon Jovi without Richie wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal and emotionally devastating. Jon's most poignant statement comes when he reflects, "There was no ill will, there was no anger, there was concern, there was sadness, but not anger." This carefully measured response reveals the complex emotions Jon felt as their partnership ended. The integration of Phil X as Richie's permanent replacement represented more than just a personnel change. It was acknowledgement that the classic Bon Jovi lineup was finished forever. Jon praises Phil's musicianship, but acknowledges that fans often cite the unique chemistry between Jon and Richie as irreplaceable. The 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame reunion provided a bittersweet moment of closure. Jon reveals that seeing Richie again was emotional, but confirmed that too much had changed for a permanent reunion to be possible. Jon's recent statements about a potential reunion are notably less optimistic than Richie's public comments. While Richie has suggested they're talking about it, Jon's carefully chosen words suggest he's moved on from that chapter. The legacy remains complicated. While they created rock's most enduring anthems together, the way it ended has left scars that may never heal. Jon Bon Jovi's shocking revelations about Richie Sambora's departure finally provide the answers fans have been seeking for over a decade. His admissions about addiction, broken promises, and business realities paint a devastating picture of how personal struggles can destroy even the strongest partnerships. What do you think about Jon's decision to finally reveal the truth? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell for more explosive stories from rock music. Thanks for watching!